So, I've been playing Astrobot on my PS5. I don't normally talk about PS5 games, but oh my god, I'm playing a PS5 game and it's... oh my god, I gotta talk about it. Now, I've been part of the Astrobot fan club for many years. I got the Astrobot Rescue Mission game for the PS4, the PSVR. It was the main game I got the VR headset for. I think that's the same for a lot of people, and sure enough, it was incredible. People often tout it as like the VR Mario 64, and I think that just comes down to it is one of the only times in recent memory I've had to like actually rethink how I approach a 3D platformer, which was so damn cool. That sort of wow moment I don't get very often anymore, and the fact that that game was able to pull that off, like, that was when I knew Astrobot was something special. There was the tech demo stuff beforehand, but Rescue Mission, that was the time I was like, they're onto something special here. We saw that more with Astro's Playroom, the built-in title for the PS5, one of the best pack-in games of all time. Super damn fun game, filled with fan service out the wazoo, as well as really fun mechanics, really cool uses of the controller. When they said, okay, we're gonna finally make like a fully fledged, full-price Astrobot game, I was super excited because, man, this is the first time that Team Asobi got to like work on something just with no restraints whatsoever, and they knocked it out of the damn park. It may seem like hyperbole for the title to be like, okay, this is actually Super Mario Galaxy 3. You may have seen a lot of people say that this is one of the best 3D platformers of all time. Is that hyperbole? No. I think I can confidently say, with all of the 3D platformers I've played in my entire lifetime, you can easily make an argument that this is top 10, maybe even top 5 3D platformers of all time. For all of the crap talk that I and many others give Sony regarding how this entire console generation has been, which it is still there, let's not get it twisted, that the PS5 Pro was announced like not long after this game came out. I gotta give credit where it's due, man. They have something super special here. This is one of the best 3D platformers of all time. It is certainly one of the high contenders for Game of the Year. And rather than worry about the future of Sony franchises, which I'll talk about, I just want to rave about this game in its own bubble because, oh god. So, a little fun fact, if you don't know about me, Super Mario Galaxy is one of my favorite games of all time. Actually, when people ask me, it is my favorite game of all time, full stop. The first game. Second game obviously comes close, but one was something special. There is a sense of whimsy and wonder that comes with every single level of that game, with play control and variety, that I haven't really seen other 3D platformers hit in the years following. Now, a lot of people would go, okay, well, what about, 3D World and Mario Odyssey? And like, obviously, all great games for different reasons, but there's there's a whimsy about Galaxy that has not been replicated. That's really coming down to the minor minutia of these games, because you're looking at games that are ranked 9 out of 10 versus 9.5 out of 10. But simply when you get to the level screen in Astrobot and it's this expanding galaxy and levels are opening up as you complete them, like, okay, I can't help but have those feelings, be evoked with this. Plus, there are a lot of cool controller gimmicks that are in this game that was in Astro's Playroom, obviously expanded here. Something else that I really like in Galaxy is that it uses the controller in a bunch of different fun ways that don't really distract from the core idea of the linear platforming challenges. Got that same vibe here. So, it sounds like hyperbole, it sounds like crazy BS talking points to just compare a Sony property as like the long lost Mario Galaxy 3, but no, that's the primary vibe that I got out of this, and I know I'm not the only one. And what it all really boils down to is this game is pure platforming joy from start to finish, with honestly, like, not a single moment of downtime. There are maybe a couple of decisions with the fan service that I would have done a little bit differently, but from start to finish, there was no part of the game that was like, this kind of sucks, or I could do without that. Nah, like there's the right level of exploration in these stages. They're all linear, they got a ton of really cool platforming ideas, but if you look off the beaten path, you'll find some hidden bots that you gotta look for, and as well as some puzzle pieces, and of course, half the joy, or if not, 7/10 of the joy, is that so many of these bots are PlayStation references, and not even just PlayStation references, but third-party references. I look at it as just any franchise that was deemed important to PlayStation's history is in here. You got, of course, Metal Gear Solid, Crash and Spyro, looking back at the PS1 days. There's PSP references, PS2 references. I really don't want to go into too many specifics here, because it was so fun every single time to just look at and figure out who these characters are going to be. Because what's really cool is that multiple levels have 2 or 3 in each, and there's usually a theme tying them all together. They're not just, thrown around haphazardly. It's not even just like that you'll find the same series in one level. Sometimes it'd be like, okay, there's like some thievery type stuff in this level, so you're gonna find some characters that kind of deal with that in one particular stage. That's super cool. Every level does something different, has a unique look, I don't think all the songs are unique, but the soundtrack is just so incredibly catchy. Maybe it's up to anyone else if they care about controller gimmicks and whatnot, but just the fact that the minor rumblings of the controller change with your footsteps on whatever platform that you're running across, the triggers, like the haptic triggers change depending on if you're using any sort of weapons or anything of the sort. And then there's the animal buddies, like, oh god, I love the animal buddies so much. One way that so many of these levels spice up the main gameplay is, hey, there's a treasure chest, you wake it up, and then, hey, look, a little animal is now on your back, and you can do so many things. You get this frog that basically turns you into arms, like the Nintendo Switch fighting game, where each trigger you can throw out a long elastic band arm, and that feels super satisfying. There's this, like, elephant thing where you can like pick up some goo and then you can make these platforms pop up from under you, it's really just the cloud suit from Mario Galaxy 2. Once again, the references are there in full effect. The one I was a little bit worried about is there's a monkey one where you gotta climb with the triggers and tilt the controller as you're climbing, and I wasn't really a huge fan of that in Astro's Playroom, but it does feel a lot better here. I think it's just simpler to get to the next thing you have to grab onto. It didn't feel as annoying as it did in Playroom, plus it's like 1 or 2 segments. It does not last long whatsoever. Dude, and there's one that slows down time, which is kind of cool already, because I like that mechanic, but you also are wearing a PSVR helmet. Like, that's just cute. That's the level of cute that I really like out of this. But then, like, the question is, does a game like this really stand out on its own without all of the fan service? And I think it does. Like, the aforementioned animal buddies add a great amount of variety to the gameplay, and I'm not even talking about the PlayStation icon cameo levels. Like, I really don't want to show them, but there are some stages that are purely based off of different PlayStation IP, and it's not even just the fan service. It introduces different mechanics that you don't get in any other stages. Like, in terms of variety, this game knocks it out of the park. Every single level in this game was an absolute joy. One thing that this game does really well that a lot of platformers don't really get right is that the collectibles, being just like the coins here, like the coins that are rampant throughout these stages, actually have a use. There are so many games where the currency that you get kind of feels worthless, but they actually tie back in to the fan service because there's a gacha machine back at your home base, and you use those coins to, purchase a random item. And those items are super cool because, a lot of the PlayStation icon cameo bots just sort of stand there doing nothing until you get their specific item that ties into something about their game, and then they are now having full movement on the stage. Like, I thought that was worthwhile. There are some aesthetical things that you can get. You can change up Astro's outfit. You can change the color palette of the controller. If there's one thing that I actually do kind of have a complaint about with this game, and it's such a minor thing in the grand scheme of things. Throughout some of the stages are these like photo opportunities where you put Astro's face behind a hole and then stuff will happen behind him and you can take a cool photo. It's neat. I was taking photos with the PS5 share button the whole time, and then I found out like hours in that there's like this thing where you can unlock a camera where it becomes a button press, and then you can just press, like, I think it was the up button and go into a camera mode. That's cool. It does seem kind of unnecessary to make that unlockable because there are so many of them that I didn't do that with. I took an in-game screenshot versus like a mechanic screenshot. Clearly, that's such a minor thing. Everything else in this game was, God, it's hard for me to not just be like, wow, this game is just incredible from start to finish, but it really is. God, and even like the level select screen, the galaxy areas are so cool because there are little secrets within them. Like, just by flying around a little bit, you'll see these asteroids and these things just floating around, and when you hit them, you unlock these micro challenges, and they're very short. It's like, here is just a section where you gotta figure out how to knock the enemies down into the floor and not die yourself. Okay, the challenge is because you can only get hit once. Cool little thing. There are these fighting rooms where everything is in voxels, and it's just great. I love the retro challenge rooms. Those look great. Once again, the aesthetics in this game top tier. But then starting in World 2, you get these button challenges. You find these sort of things where like, oh no, there's like a hidden triangle button, and you got to do a little bit of a challenge there, and then 4 micro challenges that have this triangle button aesthetic show up, and I think that's so cool. Like, the celebration of PlayStation's history in this game, it goes so hard, and I know we got to talk about if this game has its own like strong enough identity with Astro in terms of just like, does he stand out on his own? Does he need the fan service? And I think the thing with Astro is it's kind of both. Right from the offset, Astro was set out to be an extension of the player, right? Like, the controller was a core part of Astro's identity with the tech demos, the VR headset, and there are even parts in here where you see these 2 robotic arms come in, and that's you. Like, you're pressing the triggers to do things and help repair your ship. That's you. So the core idea of you being tied with your controller to Astro, I think the Astro character is better off embracing the fact that, you know, fan service is at its core, because as you see with this game, Team Asobi does so much. Like, God, the boss sections, once again, I don't want to show too much, but all of these bosses are like pure cinema. From start to finish, the animations are ridiculous. It's so fun to listen to. The adrenaline is pumping because the music is so cool. And then the final section, like, obviously no spoilers here, but the final 30 minutes of this game, I was almost getting emotional with how good that this stuff was. Like, it's so... God, it's so damn good. I do wish there were more challenging levels, and there's this Lost Galaxy thing where you find these hidden exits and then you unlock a new level in the Lost Galaxy. They're not really difficult, it's just more different stuff. Like, there's a lot of variety in that area too. But, you know, there's going to be free DLC with this game that maybe will tackle that challenge. This game is very easy, but doesn't matter. You get hit once, you still get punished for screwing up. That's fine. But then there is, of course, like, the big elephant in the room when it comes to the fan service, is at the end of the day, there is kind of a bittersweet feeling that Astro has had since Playroom, where, in my opinion, in my very clearly Nintendo-brained opinion, that this is the type of PlayStation that I always loved or used to love, is all of the celebration of just the button layout, to a lot of the PS1 and PS2 stuff, and seeing all these franchises that Sony does nothing with. And now, obviously, with the PlayStation Plus service, we are seeing some more games getting ported to like PS4 and PS5. That's cool. Just having a lot of games be accessible is a super nice thing to have. But I mean, not even too long after this game came, well, it was around the time that this game came out, one of the head honchos at Sony, in reference to games and movies, like everything that Sony does, say that they're lacking in IP, and I think that's the problem here. Like, an argument can be made that one of Sony's strong suits when it comes to PlayStation as a brand is they are consistently evolving. Every generation, they task their teams with trying out brand new IPs, pushing the envelope, and that's great. I'm fine with that, honestly. Like, obviously the argument about there being too many story-based games, you've heard that to death. Like, all those arguments are there, but clearly those games are successful. There's such a confusion as to, you're doing those things. People online do tend to complain about the lack of usage of IP, but then one of the head honchos, like one of the top guys, says that there's not enough IP when you release this game that references so many franchises that are beloved. I haven't felt this motivated to go back to random PlayStation IP in so long. There are so many PlayStation games I just haven't gotten around to playing yet, like Gravity Rush 2, for example. That's just been sitting on my shelf for so long, and hey, it's no surprise here, there's a bit of a reference to Gravity Rush in this game, and I'm like, man, I should go back and play that. I haven't felt that in so long because Sony has consistently had this thing where they don't really respect their old IP. It almost feels like they were just pumping out PSP and PS2 games because, well, Xbox has older games, we gotta beef up the PlayStation Plus lineup, why not? And I'd love to be proven wrong with this stuff, I really would, but that is a bittersweet element that Astrobot will just have attached to it until Sony changes up their core mantra. And this is obviously a conversation for a different day, but there is a feeling of when you see a franchise pop up like Ape Escape that I've talked about so many times, and you see it gets all this love in this game, and it's like, well, it'd be really cool if they did something with it, you know? Not saying we need new games in every single one of these franchises, but I love the type of PlayStation where it felt like there was still a family of franchises being built, because that's something that Nintendo's done. It's something I wish Xbox would do with all the companies that they're purchasing left, right, and center. But, you know, on its own, I do think that there's a conversation to be had about the future of PlayStation when it comes to Astro. Can they pull off this level of fan service again and just do it again in a sequel? Obviously, there's going to be more Astro in the future. There's very clearly success with this. Coming out right after the complete failure of Concord, like, I really hope that there is someone at Sony that recognizes that and kind of pivots a little bit. Not in massive ways, obviously do what they need to be successful, but there's something here, and rather than having that conversation now, I do just want to say, Team Asobi, they are one of the best studios going right now in terms of making games that are just filled with joy and having no downtime. It's crazy. Astrobot is an absolute achievement. It is one of the best PlayStation exclusives of all time. It is one of the best 3D platformers of all time. I know so many people will argue, and you see the memes all the time about the PS5 has no games. I don't really believe that. I think PS5 does actually have a decent amount of console exclusives, but regardless, I think this is the best one. You know, Astro's Playroom was the best PS5 exclusive for years, and now it's Astro again. So, I don't know, man. Astrobot's super cool. If you have a PS5, let me know what you think down below. Maybe I'm hyping this game up too much, but quite frankly, from all the reception I'm seeing online, it's pure joy. It's pure joy. It is a level of Nintendo joy that you don't see from companies that aren't Nintendo super often. I think that's worth respecting. So Team Asobi, thank you so much. And Sony, I guess I'm going to go back to being disappointed in them for the next few years. I don't know, man. I feel weird. Astrobot makes me feel weird.